The bearded biker pulls his son close. A terrifying creature stalks their blue motorcycle. Sensing danger, the father revs the engine. They speed into the pitch-black night. The relentless monster chases closely behind them. Just then, the boy spots an alleyway. They sharply turn and lose the beast. But the deserted town hides deeper secrets. Shadowy figures emerge from the broken windows. The father grabs his heavy steel chain. He vows to protect his young boy. A tall stranger steps from the darkness. The man holds a glowing blue artifact. This mysterious object controls the feral monsters. Suddenly, the creatures surround the trapped motorcycle. The biker swings his chain with fury. He knocks back the first two attackers. The boy throws a heavy rock at them. This distraction buys them precious few seconds. They rush toward a glowing neon diner. The heavy glass door barricades them safely. Inside, terrified locals hide under the tables. A waitress points to a hidden basement. They quickly climb down the wooden stairs. The monsters crash through the diner windows. Glass shatters loudly across the tiled floor. Below, the father finds an old shotgun. He loads the weapon with trembling hands. The boy discovers a dusty map underneath. It shows a safe haven up north. Heavy footsteps thump on the floorboards above. The basement door suddenly violently bursts open. A monstrous claw reaches into the dark. The father fires a loud warning shot. The deafening blast pushes the beast back. They escape through a narrow dirt tunnel. The dark passage leads to the woods. Cold rain begins pouring from the dark sky. They must retrieve their custom blue motorcycle. It holds their only means of rapid escape. Sneaking back, they see the tall stranger. He is inspecting their heavily modified bike. The biker quietly approaches from the shadows. He tackles the tall man with brute force. The glowing artifact rolls across the wet street. The young boy bravely grabs the alien device. Instantly, the roaming monsters stop their brutal attack. They stare blankly at the brave young child. The father quickly starts the loud motorcycle engine. He pulls his son safely onto the seat. They speed away from the cursed, ruined town. The strange monsters do not follow them anymore. Dawn breaks over the distant, snow-capped mountain peaks. The blue artifact still glows in the sunlight. They realize their perilous journey is just beginning. Other surviving towns might need their sudden help. The biker grips the handlebars with fierce determination. They drive toward the northern rebel safe haven. A military roadblock appears on the dusty horizon. Armed guards cautiously approach the blue custom motorcycle. They demand the glowing blue alien control artifact. The father refuses to surrender their only leverage. He accelerates right past the startled military guards. Blaring sirens echo as military jeeps chase them. The young boy holds tightly to his dad. They swerve dangerously through the winding mountain roads. A black helicopter appears hovering above the trees. A trained sniper aims directly at the tires. The brave boy activates the blue artifact again. An energy pulse disables the hovering helicopter systems. The chopper spirals down into the dense forest. They barely manage to lose the pursuing jeeps. The tired duo hides inside an abandoned barn. The father carefully bandages a scrape on his arm. He realizes the corrupt government caused the mutation. They created the feral monsters as biological weapons. The blue device was their master control mechanism. Now, the military desperately wants to cover it up. The boy looks terrified but remains incredibly strong. They must expose this massive, dark global conspiracy. A hidden radio broadcasts a weak resistance signal. Human survivors are gathering at the old dam. They pack their heavy gear and ride out. The ruined road is littered with abandoned vehicles. They navigate silently through the destroyed, quiet highway. Suddenly, a giant mutated bear heavily blocks them. This wild beast ignores the blue-controlled device. It charges fiercely at the stopped custom motorcycle. The father swiftly slides the heavy bike to safety. He uses the old shotgun to temporarily blind it. The angry bear crashes into a rusted metal truck. They escape before the huge animal can recover. The massive dam finally appears in the distance. Heavily armed survivors guard the huge concrete entrance. The bearded biker shows them the glowing artifact. They are immediately welcomed inside the fortified camp. A brilliant scientist explains the artifact's true power. It can permanently cure the infected mutant monsters. But the alien device requires a massive amplifier. The dam generators can provide the needed power. Military forces suddenly attack a hidden rebel base. Loud explosions rock the sturdy concrete dam walls. The father volunteers to bravely defend the entrance. The young boy stays behind to help the scientist. A fierce, deadly gunfight erupts across the bridge. The biker leads the brave, outnumbered resistance fighters. Inside, the huge machine finally reaches full power. The scientist connects the glowing blue alien artifact. A massive blue shockwave ripples across the valley. The attacking soldiers are thrown entirely off balance. Infected monsters nearby suddenly collapse in severe pain. Strange, deadly mutations begin to rapidly reverse. Evil military commander orders a full retreat. The surviving resistance fighters cheer their massive victory. The exhausted father rushes back to find his son. They embrace tightly in the chaotic control room. The broken world finally has a real fighting chance. The biker knows they must keep riding forward. They climb back onto the trusted blue motorcycle. The father and son ride proudly into the sunset. They ride across the barren, dusty desert wasteland. A sudden loud roar echoes from the mountains. The father grips the handlebars with fierce determination. Dangerous hidden enemies emerge from the dusty shadows. He fiercely revs the engine to protect him. Their blue motorcycle speeds away from the ambush. Gunfire erupts violently behind their speeding rear wheel. The boy holds tightly to his father's jacket. A dark armored truck smashes through the rocks. They narrowly dodge the heavy steel front bumper. The father steers sharply towards a narrow canyon. Bullets ricochet loudly off the tall stone walls. He pulls out his pistol with one hand. He fires blindly back at the pursuing truck. A massive explosion blocks the narrow canyon path. The truck crashes violently into the falling debris. They safely escape the fiery trap behind them. The desert wind blows harshly against their faces. Suddenly, the motorcycle engine makes a strange noise. Dark smoke pours out from the overheated exhaust. They slowly pull over near a dead tree. The father quickly inspects the broken engine parts. They realize they must find water very soon. The blazing sun beats down on the wasteland. He opens his leather bag to find tools. The young boy watches the horizon for danger. A strange shadow moves across the distant dunes. They quickly hide behind the broken blue motorcycle. A scavenger patrol rides slowly past their location. They hold their breath until the danger passes. The father finally fixes the broken engine valve. The engine roars back to life with power. They quickly resume their journey across the sand. Night begins to fall over the vast desert. The temperature drops rapidly in the dark wasteland. They find a small cave for temporary shelter. He builds a small fire to keep warm. They share a small piece of dried meat. The boy falls asleep in his father's arms. He stays awake to guard their small camp. Strange animal noises echo in the dark night. He spots red eyes glowing in the darkness. A pack of wildhounds surrounds their cave. He grabs a burning branch from the fire. He swings the torch to scare the beasts. The leader hound leaps toward the sleeping boy. The father tackles the wild beast midair. They roll fiercely on the dirty cave floor. He manages to strike it with a heavy rock. The injured beast runs away into the darkness. The rest of the pack quickly scatters away. He checks the boy who is still sleeping. Morning sunlight finally enters the cold dark cave. They pack their meager belongings and leave quickly. The blue motorcycle speeds across the morning dunes. They discover an abandoned military outpost up ahead. Rusty wire fences surround the old concrete building. They carefully walk through the broken main gate. The courtyard is filled with old military vehicles. They search the trucks for fuel and water. The boy finds a dusty bottle of clear water. Suddenly an alarm siren screams through the outpost. Hidden automated turrets rise from the concrete walls. Heavy machine guns start firing at their location. They dive behind a rusty metal storage tank. Bullets tear through the metal just above them. The father throws a smoke grenade for cover. They run desperately towards the main control room. He kicks open the heavy steel security door. The turrets finally stop firing as doors close. The control room is dark and incredibly dusty. He searches for the main power switch lever. He pulls the lever to disable the defenses. The base becomes completely silent once again now. They find a secret underground supply bunker door. They slowly climb down the dark, rusty ladder. Emergency red lights illuminate the long underground hallway. The bunker is filled with weapons and food. They finally have enough supplies to survive winter. Suddenly a heavy footstep echoes behind them both. A massive mutant guard steps out from shadows. The monster holds a giant rusty steel hammer. The father pushes the boy behind a crate. He readies his pistol to fight the monster. The mutant swings the heavy hammer with force. He barely dodges the deadly crushing hammer blow. He shoots the mutant in its thick chest. The bullets barely slow the massive monster down. The mutant kicks him across the bunker floor. He crashes hard against the cold metal wall. The father struggles to breathe after the impact. The monster raises the hammer for final strike. The brave boy throws a heavy iron wrench. The wrench hits the monster right in the eye. The mutant roars in pain and drops weapons. The father quickly grabs a nearby electrical cable. He jams the live wire into the monster. High voltage shocks the mutant into sudden unconsciousness. The giant enemy falls heavily to the floor. They both breathe heavily after the intense fight. He embraces his brave son with immense pride. They quickly gather the much-needed survival supplies. They carry the heavy bags up the ladder. They load the supplies onto the blue motorcycle. The wasteland seems less dangerous to them now. They hear the distant sound of more engines. A larger enemy convoy appears on the horizon. They know they cannot stay in this place. He starts the motorcycle with a powerful kick. They speed out of the abandoned military base. The new convoy chases them across the dunes. But this time they are truly ready to fight. The blue motorcycle races toward the setting sun. The father feels a strong sense of pure hope. Their long journey is far from over right now. The dusty wind carries their roaring engine sound. They become a living legend in the wasteland. No enemy will ever break their strong bond. The father and son survive another brutal day. They ride forward toward a much brighter future. The bearded father finds some strange red shells. He cracks the hard shell to extract meat. The soft white meat provides much needed energy. He carefully pulls out a tough inner cartilage. Every single bite helps him regain his strength. He chews the salty meat with immense satisfaction. Finding food here is a very rare blessing. He prepares more pieces from the leftover shells. The father rips the remaining claws wide open. He expertly extracts the last bit of food. He savors the rich taste of the fresh catch. This small feast keeps his tired body going. He slowly swallows the last piece of meat. The father licks his fingers to clean them. He feels ready to continue their hard journey. Soon, the father reunites with his young son. They discover some dark green plants near camp. The father inspects the strange boiled green leaves. He hands a small piece to his son. The boy bravely tastes the wild green plant. They realize the seaweed is actually quite edible. The father quickly takes a large bite himself. They chew the salty leaves to gather nutrients. It is not tasty, but it keeps them alive. They share the remaining green plants between them. Suddenly, the father notices something in the trees. He points out a dark shape resting high. A large spiky creature sits on a branch. The father slowly reaches for his trusty shotgun. He carefully loads a red shell into the chamber. He aims the long, heavy barrel at the target. The father steadies his breathing for the shot. A loud blast suddenly echoes through the forest. The large spiky beast falls to the ground. The father holds up their fresh, heavy catch. This porcupine will provide meat for several days. They hang the dead animal from a tree. The son watches as the father prepares it. The father carefully begins to skin the creature. He uses his sharp knife with great precision. They must preserve every single piece of meat. The father removes the dangerous sharp spiky skin. He skillfully cuts away the rich red meat. This fresh meat guarantees their survival another day. They quickly wash the raw meat in a stream. The father places the clean meat into a pot. He fills the large metal pot with fresh water. He carries the heavy pot back to their camp. A warm fire burns brightly in the clearing. He places the pot directly onto the flames. The cold water slowly begins to heat up now. The father adds some wild spices for flavor. The hot fire cooks the meat very slowly. Steam rises from the bubbling hot cooking pot. The father decides to hunt for more food. He grabs a bird decoy and walks away. He wears camouflage to hide in the grass. The father spots some large birds far away. He quickly puts on a green face mask. He hides quietly behind a large gray rock. He uses a small tool to make bird calls. The wild turkeys wander in the distant field. The father waits patiently for them to approach. He watches the birds through the thick bushes. The distant turkeys remain too far for a shot. He keeps calling to attract the wild birds. The cautious birds refuse to come any closer. The father eventually decides to give up hunting. He slowly walks back across the open field. He carries his heavy gear back to camp. The father returns empty-handed from the field. He knows they still have the boiling meat. Darkness quickly falls over their small forest camp. The father checks the boiling pot of meat. He uses a long stick to stir the stew. The thick broth bubbles over the hot coals. The meat looks tender after hours of boiling. He lifts the cooked meat from the water. The father carefully inspects the fully cooked meal. He places the hot meat back to simmer. The father prepares some simple flour dough next. He flattens the white dough into small cakes. He carefully places the dough on hot rocks. The flat bread slowly bakes near the fire. The hot stones act as a natural wild oven. He watches the small cakes cook very carefully. The father flips the hot bread to bake evenly. The simple ash cakes are finally fully baked. He pulls the hot brown bread from the rocks. The father takes a huge bite of the bread. The warm bread tastes amazing in the cold. He chews the simple meal with great joy. The father grabs the hot pot of cooked meat. He pulls a piece of the tender porcupine. He blows on the hot meat to cool it. The father finally tastes the wild forest meat. The tender meat falls easily off the bone. He eats the rich warm food in the darkness. The son also enjoys the warm hearty meal. They sit quietly near the dying campfire. The father shows the son some hanging fish. Several dried fish hang from a wooden pole. They have preserved this food for harder times. The father inspects a piece of dried meat. He throws the dried piece into the hot pot. The boiling water will soften the hard meat. He slowly stirs the new stew with a stick. The father portions out the hot, rich broth. They drink the warm liquid from metal cups. The hot soup warms their cold, tired bodies. The father takes another large piece of meat. He quietly chews the soft meat in the dark. The son drinks the very last drop of soup. They have successfully survived another difficult, harsh day. The father praises the boy for his strength. They clean their simple cooking gear together now. The father carefully checks the dark woods around them. He ensures their small hidden camp is totally safe. But the next morning brings new relentless deep hunger. He immediately searches for any edible wild plants. The father carefully gathers wet moss for cleaning. His survival knife is washed cleanly in the stream. Every basic resource is strictly rationed for survival. He quickly harvests more damp greens found nearby. The cold stream provides endless essential fresh water. He must maintain his low energy at all costs. The vast surrounding wilderness stretches out endlessly ahead. He quietly plans the next crucial foraging trip. The nearby distant ocean might offer some hope. He decides to intensely hunt for anything alive. Without hesitation, the man ventures deeper into silent woods. Hot fire is built to cook their catch. Boiling river water is essential for safe cooking. He carefully drops the trapped crayfish into the pot. This extremely rare protein will sustain them today. A simple warm meal finally brings some comfort. He inspects the skin of a hunted porcupine. The freshly butchered meat is washed in the creek. He carefully portions the cooked food for later. Every small bite is savored with deep gratitude. The thick, rich broth restores his fading strength. He quickly prepares another pot over the hot coals. The father finally rests by their woven shelter. Soon, his loyal companion joins him near the fire. They must constantly seek out new food sources. He bravely heads back out into the thick brush. The surrounding terrain remains unforgiving and quite rough. A struggling fish is successfully caught in the stream. He quickly secures the desperately needed fresh catch. The plastic bucket fills with the vital river harvest. This incredible fishing success suddenly brings them immense relief. Steadily continues to sweep the rushing water. The freezing dark water chills him to the bone. They carefully gather their newly caught fish together. Each fish guarantees another hard day of survival. He expertly slices open the largest silver fish. The discovered fish roe provides rich essential nutrients. Absolutely nothing from the precious animal will be wasted. He skillfully prepares the meat for immediate cooking. His sharp knife work is precise and very careful. Luckily, he opportunistically finds a discarded box for gathering. Green shoots are harvested from the muddy bank. These nutritious wild plants will heavily supplement their diet. He swiftly collects a completely full healthy pile. The thin makeshift container is quickly completely filled. He eagerly grabs a shovel for the wide mud flats. But the distant gray shore offers a different bounty. The vast wet coastline is exposed at low tide. They confidently march toward the wet sandy shoreline. The muddy open ground holds hidden delicious coastal treasures. They quickly start digging deep into the heavy mud. It is extremely backbreaking work in the cold air. They relentlessly search for deeply buried massive clams. Every dirty shovel scoop brings them closer to eating. He excitedly washes the mud off the gathered clams. They successfully continue unearthing a completely hidden precious shellfish. The bucket slowly fills with remarkably heavy clams. A surprisingly huge clam is triumphantly pulled right out. Their synchronized teamwork makes the heavy task slightly easier. They systematically comb the entirely exposed wet muddy beach. Large incredible harvest is cleaned in a puddle. He carefully scrubs the grit from their hard shells. This massive unexpected bounty will finally feed them well. Each washed clam represents absolutely vital stored bodily energy. Mostly admires the thick, heavy protective white shell. They happily work together to clean the massive haul. Unfortunately, approaching nightfall brings blinding darkness and cold winds. Are stored safely deep inside. He comfortably settles into the dark cramped warm shelter. A glowing small fire beautifully illuminates the damp walls. He extremely carefully manages the precious small warm flames. Intensely soothing heat slowly warms his freezing hands. The thick woven walls completely block the fierce wind. He rests very quietly beside the softly glowing embers. Thick, heavy smoke slowly fills the very small space. The rising smoke excellently helps preserve their caught meat. He cautiously checks the wooden roof for dangerous leaks. Dozens of silverfish hang above to properly dry. This carefully preserved food is their best winter insurance. He mentally prepares himself for the freezing long night. Deep exhaustion finally completely overtakes his highly battered body. It's deeply in the completely smoky dark air. He briefly steps outside to strictly check the perimeter. A warm metal mug offers some truly needed comfort. The intensely hot liquid beautifully soothes his dry throat. He prepares the large metal cooking pot for boiling. The previously gathered clams are safely tossed inside. He excitedly signals his companion about the cooking meal. The stoked fire blazes extremely hotly beneath the pot. He then eagerly bites into a perfectly roasted fish. The completely tender meat is a truly wonderful reward. He completely devours the meal with intense ravenous hunger. More silvery fish are roasted directly on glowing coals. He carefully turns the smoking fish to cook evenly. The flickering flames are repeatedly stoked to maintain heat. Cooking perfectly requires constant and completely careful human attention, and wood glows quite brightly in darkness. The satisfying sizzling sound completely fills the quiet shelter. Happily share the warm food and survival stories. A deeply comforting moment of peace finally settles in. They quietly reflect together on the day's hard labor. He thoroughly picks apart the very last bony pieces. Even the incredibly small fish scraps are quickly consumed. His tired body desperately absorbs the incredibly rich calories. Formerly intense starving hunger is finally completely satisfied. Licks his messy fingers entirely of grease. Every single tiny edible morsel is considered highly valuable. He feels vastly stronger after the heavy meal. The previously dark scary shelter feels incredibly safer now. Hardly saves a very small portion from morning. He simply cannot resist taking just one more bite. The intensely savory natural flavor is absolutely incredibly rich. Next, the remaining completely charred fish bones. Eventually, the warm fire is slowly allowed to die. He happily finished the truly very last bite today. His exhausted companion is already falling very fast asleep. The incredibly hot glowing coals remain brightly burning. Safely secures the leftover food away from animals. He stares into the dark, silent pine woods. Strange rustling sounds break the quiet, cold night. A sudden chill fills the heavy, damp air. He tightens his thick jacket against the cold. His young son sleeps deeply through the noise. He keeps a careful watch until early dawn. Faint morning light finally pierces the thick canopy. Small birds begin singing in the tall trees. He slowly stretches his incredibly stiff, tired muscles. The remaining camp embers are completely cold now. His little boy finally stirs from heavy sleep. They quickly pack their few remaining meager belongings. Every single item must be secured very tightly. He carefully checks the food stash for damage. Luckily, the cache remains entirely untouched overnight here. They shoulder their heavy backpacks with great effort. The journey ahead looks incredibly difficult today again. He silently points toward the distant high mountain. They start walking slowly through the dense brush. Thick vines constantly block their originally intended path. He swings his sharp blade through thick brush. They steadily push deeper into the dark forest. The rough terrain becomes much steeper very quickly. Cold sweat pours down their tired, dirty faces. They pause briefly together to catch their breath. Drinking water supplies are running dangerously low already. He checks the old paper map for directions. A fresh river should be somewhere nearby soon. They march onward with a renewed desperate hope. The distinct sound of rushing water echoes ahead. They run quickly toward the very sweet noise. A clear, cold stream flows rapidly over rocks. They greedily drink the freezing, incredibly fresh water. He quickly fills their empty plastic water canteens. The icy water completely refreshes their exhausted bodies. Now they must carefully cross the dangerous currents. He tests the slippery wet rocks very cautiously. The freezing water wildly rushes around his boots. He almost loses his precarious footing completely there. His brave son quickly grabs his flailing arm. They safely reach the opposite muddy river bank. Both immediately collapse onto the soft, wet grass. Dark storm clouds gather suddenly above the trees. A fierce, cold wind begins to howl loudly. They desperately need shelter before the storm hits. They quickly scramble up the steep rocky hillside. Bright lightning suddenly flashes across the dark sky. A loud thunderclap aggressively shakes the solid ground. Heavy, cold raindrops start falling on their heads. He finally spots a small cave opening ahead. They desperately dive into the incredibly dry space. The violent storm rages fiercely right outside now. They sit completely silently in the dark shelter. He nervously lights a small flashlight for visibility. The tiny stone cave feels very cramped indeed. They carefully open their wet packs to eat. A single dry biscuit is split perfectly evenly. Fierce hunger gnaws constantly at their empty stomachs. They must simply endure this terrible raging storm. The heavy rain finally stops after several hours. They cautiously emerge from the dark rocky cave. The entire forest floor is now pure mud. Every single step requires tremendous physical effort now. He uses a sturdy wooden branch for support. The dense fog makes navigation incredibly difficult today. He nervously checks the small compass once again. They are slowly, painfully moving toward the north. A very strange footprint suddenly appears in mud. He slowly kneels down to examine the track. The fresh footprint clearly belongs to a bear. Cold fear suddenly grips both of their hearts. They slowly draw their knives for basic protection. They move incredibly quietly through the dense trees. Every snapped wooden twig sounds like an explosion. They anxiously scan the thick bushes for movement. A massive dark shadow shifts in the distance. They completely freeze in their deep muddy tracks. A large brown deer suddenly bursts away quickly. They finally exhale deeply with immense pure relief. The dangerous bear is completely nowhere to be seen. They quickly resume their incredibly difficult northern trek. The thick white fog begins to slowly clear. Bright sunlight breaks through the remaining gray clouds. The warm golden rays quickly dry their clothes. A vast, beautiful green valley opens before them. The breathtaking view completely takes their breath away. They finally spot a small cabin far below. Warm hope finally returns to their tired eyes. They eagerly begin the very long, steep descent. The narrow rocky path is very treacherous downwards. He carefully navigates the dangerous loose stone trail. Small sharp rocks tumble noisily down the cliff. They absolutely must not rush and risk injury. The wooden cabin grows larger as they approach. Gray smoke is rising from the stone chimney. Someone is actually living in this remote wilderness. They cautiously approach the old, weathered wooden door. He loudly knocks on the heavy wood surface. A grumpy old man slowly opens the door. The cautious stranger looks at them with suspicion. He explains his son's desperate need for safety. The old man finally lowers his hunting rifle. He warmly invites them inside the cozy cabin. A bright, roaring fire burns in the hearth. A large pot of stew boils very rapidly. The incredibly amazing smell makes their mouths water. The kind man offers them two wooden bowls. They eat the hot, delicious food incredibly fast. It is easily the best meal they remember. They profusely thank the stranger for his kindness. He gladly tells them about the nearby town. Safe civilization is only a few miles away. They can very easily reach it by tomorrow. The terrible, long nightmare is finally almost over. They rest peacefully on incredibly soft padded chairs. The violent storm outside has now completely passed. They safely survive the incredibly harsh, unforgiving wilderness. Tomorrow finally brings a brand new hopeful journey. They happily close their eyes in total comfort. The bright burning fire slowly begins to fade. A gentle sunrise wakes them from deep sleep. They quickly gather their few remaining survival supplies. Stepping outside reveals a completely transformed winter landscape. Fierce storm washed away all previous paths. Now they must forge a completely new trail. The crisp air feels unusually and strangely silent. He carefully checks the handmade compass once more. Their ultimate destination lies beyond the distant peaks. With heavy backpacks, they start walking straight ahead. Every single step crunches loudly against frozen ground. Suddenly she spots something unusual near the river. Large heavy footprints are pressed deep into mud. These fresh tracks definitely do not belong here. Someone else is wandering through this isolated valley. They exchange a worried, silent glance of realization. Slowly they decide to follow the mysterious trail. The heavy forest canopy completely blocks out sunlight. Dark shadows seem to dance nervously between trees. He silently draws his hunting knife, just in case. The strange footprints lead towards a hidden cave. A faint smell of wood smoke drifts outward slowly. Someone was resting here very recently this morning. They creep closer to the rocky entrance carefully. Inside, war members still glow in a fire pit. A torn piece of fabric hangs loosely nearby. She instantly recognizes the intricate pattern on cloth. This clearly belongs to the missing search party. Hope suddenly surges through their exhausted, tired bodies. But the small camp looks chaotic and abandoned. A broken wooden arrow lies forgotten near ashes. Whatever found them was definitely hostile and fast. They must track the survivors before it is late. Pushing deeper into the woods requires extreme caution. Strange ancient markings are carved into the bark. These symbols warn travelers of impending hidden dangers. The dense forest suddenly grows completely dead quiet. Not a single little bird sings in branches. A sharp snap of dry wood breaks silence. They instantly drop down into the tall grass. Something massive moves heavily through the thick underbrush. They hold their breath, completely paralyzed by fear. A giant shadowed figure slowly lumbers right past. It sniffs the cold air, searching for prey. Thankfully, the strong wind blows their scent away. The terrifying creature disappears back into dense fog. They slowly stand up with knees shaking badly. Surviving this brutal place requires more than luck. They sprint quietly towards a higher rocky ridge. From up here, the entire valley becomes visible. Far below, a massive ruined structure stands alone. It looks like an ancient, forgotten stone fortress. The missing camp survivors might be hiding there. Climbing down the steep cliff is incredibly dangerous. Loose, sharp rocks tumble down with every step. She suddenly slips, but he catches her arm. They finally reach the bottom, completely exhausted again. The massive old stone gates are broken open. Complete darkness swallows the interior of the fortress. Lighting a small wooden torch, they step inside. The freezing cold walls are covered in moss. Thick dust falls lightly from the crumbling ceiling. They quickly discover an armory filled with weapons. Among the rusted old swords lies a rifle. It perfectly matches the gear of their friends. Heavy footsteps echo loudly down the dark hallway. They quickly hide safely behind a fallen pillar. Two scary masked figures patrol the corridor slowly. They speak in a strange, unrecognized, harsh language. These are definitely scavengers controlling the old ruins. Waiting patiently, they let the evil guards pass. They quietly sneak into what looks like prison. Several locked heavy iron cages line damp walls. Inside one cold cage sits a battered man. It is the brave leader of the group. He weakly looks up, completely shocked by them. He frantically and desperately whispers for them to run. They bravely refuse to leave without saving him. Finding the heavy iron key becomes top priority. The careless guards left a keyring on table. He quietly sneaks over to grab the keys. Suddenly, a massive heavy metal door slams shut. The cruel trap was perfectly set for them. The violent scavengers emerge from the dark shadows. They are completely surrounded with absolutely no escape. The angry scavenger leader steps forward, grinning evilly. He loudly demands to know where their camp is. They fiercely refuse to speak, staring back defiantly. The leader angrily raises his weapon to strike. But a massive loud explosion suddenly shakes everything. Thick dust and heavy debris rain down everywhere. The stone wall crumbles, revealing a rescue squad. The armed cavalry arrived exactly at perfect time. Loud gunfire immediately erupts inside the enclosed room. They cleverly use the chaotic distraction to escape. Unlocking the rusty cage takes agonizingly 10 seconds. The badly wounded leader finally steps out, breathing. They must evacuate quickly before the roof collapses. Dodging deadly flying bullets, they sprint for exit. The brave rescue team provides excellent covering fire. They quickly burst out of the dark fortress. The fresh, crisp air fills their burning lungs. A large waiting transport vehicle hums loudly nearby. They gently help the wounded man climb aboard. The furious scavengers wildly rush out, stopping them. But the heavy armored transport speeds away fast, leaving those deeply cursed ruins far behind forever. Inside the safe truck, everyone finally breathes easily. This long, terrifying, deadly nightmare is almost over. The rescued, wounded man sincerely thanks them softly. They peacefully look out at the passing forest. This wild, brutal journey tested their ultimate limits, but they successfully survived the dangerous wilderness together. The beautiful city skyline finally appears on horizon. Civilization means complete safety and warm food. The large vehicle slowly drives through protected gates. Happy people cheer as the lost survivors return. They gladly step out, feeling like changed people. Those deeply dangerous days feel like distant dreams. They proudly smile, knowing they can overcome anything. A wonderfully new, peaceful chapter of life begins. This peaceful new life requires constant hard work. The lone survivor navigates the dense, quiet forest. He spots a bloody axe left behind earlier. He retrieves his hard-earned wild game nearby. The heavy bird represents a crucial food source. He carries the prized catch to his camp. This meal will restore his rapidly fading energy. He carefully lays the large bird on wood. Preparing the meat requires immense focus and skill. He uses his sharp knife with extreme precision. Every single calorie matters in this harsh wilderness. He slowly cuts open the freshly plucked bird. Removing the inner organs is a necessary task. He examines the contents of the bird's stomach. Finding undigested plants proves the bird ate well. He lifts the impressive carcass to inspect it. The lean meat lacks the necessary survival fat. Still, it provides essential protein for his body. He continues cleaning the carcass on the log. The grueling work takes a heavy toll now. He realizes he must gather more diverse food. He soon arrives at a shallow, muddy stream. The cold water gently flows through the trees. He carefully washes his blood-stained hands and knife. Cleanliness prevents dangerous infections in the unforgiving wild. Spots something hidden beneath the shallow water. He starts gathering fresh clams from the mud. Each clam offers a tiny bit of sustenance. He eagerly tosses the valuable shellfish into buckets. He washes the muddy clams in the stream. A decent pile of seafood is finally collected. He brings his fresh bounty back to camp. The survivalist prepares a large metal cooking pot. He drops the clean clams into boiling water. The roaring fire quickly cooks the gathered seafood. He adds some rare spices for extra flavor. The delicious smell fills the isolated woodland camp. He grabs a sturdy branch for his next task. The large bird must be roasted over flames. He skillfully forces the stick through the meat. Skewering the heavy carcass requires all his strength. He securely mounts the bird above the fire. The flames begin to carefully roast the meat. He turns his attention back to the seafood. A massive feast is slowly coming together now. He excitedly pulls a cooked clam from water. The hot meat provides instant warmth and comfort. He eagerly eats the much-needed, delicious seafood meal. This small victory boosts his fragile mental state. He shares the feast with a fellow survivor. They both desperately needed this rich, hot food. Every bite restores their fading hope and strength. They eat in silence, appreciating the rare bounty. Survival depends on these fleeting moments of success. He soon grabs his heavy axe once again. The roaring fire constantly demands more dry wood. He vigorously swings the axe at thick logs. Chopping firewood keeps their essential camp fully operational. The hard labor quickly drains his recent calories. He gathers the split wood for the fire. The flames crackle warmly against the cold air. He takes the bird's dark organs to cook. He carefully slices the rich liver into pieces. Nothing is ever wasted in this harsh environment. He threads the small meat pieces onto sticks. These makeshift skewers go straight to the fire. The organ meat sizzles loudly over hot coals. He patiently waits for the nutrient-dense survival food. He later inspects a piece of smoked fish. The preserved meat offers a different, salty flavor. He bites into the tough, blackened fish meat. It tastes incredible after days of intense struggle. The survivor grabs his roasted meat skewer next. He chews the dark meat with deep satisfaction. His body eagerly absorbs the much-needed rich iron. He checks on the massive bird roasting nearby. The skin is turning a perfect, crispy brown. Slow roasting ensures the tough meat becomes tender. He chops more logs to maintain the heat. The repetitive work becomes a calming survival rhythm. The camp is fully stocked with essential firewood. He decides to forage for some wild greens. He finds curled fiddlehead ferns near the water. These rare plants provide vital vitamins and minerals. He washes the green ferns in a pot. They are placed over the fire to boil. Boiling removes any hidden toxins from the plants. The nutritious green stew bubbles over hot flames. He tastes a cooked fern with a smile. The earthy flavor perfectly complements the rich meats. He proudly inspects the fully roasted wild bird. The massive feast is finally ready to eat. He carefully carves a large chunk of meat. The juicy white meat looks incredibly appetizing now. He takes a massive bite of the bird. It is the best meal he has eaten. His companion also enjoys the hard-earned roasted meat. They both sit back, completely full and satisfied. The demanding wilderness feels slightly less hostile tonight. Exhaustion quickly overtakes the lone, weary survivalist now. Crawls into his small tent to rest. The dark night passes quietly without any danger. Morning light breaks through the dense forest canopy. He wakes up slowly, feeling stiff and sore. Another challenging day of survival has just begun. He immediately checks the camp's smoldering fire pit. The glowing coals are quickly brought to life. He warms his freezing hands by the fire. Survival is a constant, never-ending daily struggle here. Grabs a leftover piece of roasted meat. Breakfast provides the fuel needed for today's tasks. He eats the cold meat with profound gratitude. His body feels significantly stronger than yesterday morning. He stares into the forest, planning his moves. He must continue hunting and gathering to live. The harsh wild shows absolutely no mercy ever, but he has proven his incredible resilience today. He packs up his basic tools with purpose. The resilient survivor marches back into the woods. His incredible journey through the wild continues forward. Deep in the forest, he spots fresh tracks. A massive deer recently passed through this area. He silently readies his crafted wooden hunting spear. Every footstep is carefully placed among the leaves. He knows the beast cannot be far away. Suddenly, a loud rustle breaks the eerie silence. He quickly ducks behind a large fallen oak. It is definitely not a deer approaching now. A massive timber wolf emerges from the brush. The predator sniffs the air with deadly intent. He slowly backs away to avoid sudden confrontation. The fierce beast snarls, defending its fresh territory. Choosing safe survival over combat, he retreats quietly. Must find another hunting ground very soon. The fading daylight pushes him to move faster. Dark storm clouds rapidly gather above the canopy. A chilling wind sweeps through the ancient trees. Heavy raindrops begin to strike the dry forest. He desperately needs to locate emergency shelter immediately. Freezing rain can be completely fatal out here. He spots a rocky outcrop in the distance. Sprinting through the mud, he reaches the rocks. A small, dark cave offers the perfect refuge. He cautiously inspects the entrance for wild animals. The dark cavern appears entirely empty and safe. He gathers dry moss from deep inside quickly. Striking his flint, a tiny spark catches life. The small fire brings warmth to the darkness. He huddles close to the flickering orange flames. Outside, the violent storm rages on without mercy. Hunger gnaws painfully at his tired, empty stomach. He retrieves a few dried berries from his pouch. This meager meal will have to sustain him. Exhaustion finally overwhelms his tense and aching muscles. He slowly drifts into a restless, light sleep. Strange shadows dance wildly on the cave walls. The howling wind sounds like a dying creature. He wakes suddenly, gripping his sharp wooden spear. False alarm, just the raging tempest outside roaring. Morning eventually breaks, bringing a calm, clear sky. The violent forest storm has finally completely passed. He steps out into the damp, fresh morning. Sunlight pierces through the dense, wet green canopy. Today, he absolutely must secure a real meal. He makes his way toward the rushing river. Fresh tracks line the muddy banks of the water. Wild boars have been digging around these roots. He carefully sets up a clever snare trap. Using strong vines, he secures the hidden loop. Now he must wait patiently in the shadows. Hours pass slowly in the quiet, damp woods. Suddenly, a loud squeal echoes through the trees. The clever trap has successfully caught its prey. He quickly rushes over to claim his prize. A small wild boar struggles in the vines. He dispatches the angry animal with swift mercy. One wrong step could mean a broken leg. He slowly crosses a narrow, precarious wooden log. The rushing rapids roar fiercely far below him. He successfully makes it to the other side. A dense fog begins rolling into the valley. Visibility drops to almost zero within mere minutes. He relies completely on the river's loud sound. Stumbling forward blindly, he hits a wooden structure. The thick fog clears just enough to see. An old, decayed hunter's cabin stands right there. The wooden roof is partially collapsed and rotten. He prepares a final meal by the fire. He carefully shapes dough over the hot coals. The roasted wild game looks incredibly delicious. He checks the meat for the perfect doneness. His body feels the heavy toll of hunger. Yet they share a triumphant final wilderness feast. Every savory bite is a hard-earned reward. They savor the rich taste of true survival. Even simple bread feels like a grand luxury. He breaks the flatbread with immense gratitude. He shares his deep thoughts on the journey. He packs his remaining rations for the end. Tomorrow marks the end of their grueling trial. He expresses his heartfelt thanks to their supporters. He tries to rest despite the gnawing hunger. The final morning in the deep woods arrives. He is eager to check his last traps. It is finally time to leave the wilderness. He is ready to reclaim his normal life. He packs up his sparse, weathered camp gear. He takes a last cold drink of water. He emerges from the tiny tent once more. He steps out into the dark, quiet morning. He unzips the tent with a quiet resolve. He reflects on the incredible weight he lost. They are finally heading back to modern civilization. He dreams of a massive, glorious exit meal. The anticipation of real food is completely overwhelming. They drive far away from the wild forest. The intense survival challenge is officially over now. They have pushed their bodies to the absolute limit. He is excited to see his beloved family. The beautiful dawn sky paints a vibrant return. They head out to retrieve their lobster traps. They pull up the first successful, heavy catch. The ocean provides one last bountiful, wild gift. He carefully handles the feisty, captured lobsters. He measures the fresh lobsters for legal size. They secure the fresh catch in the boat. They finally arrive at a bright grocery store. They browse the glorious aisles full of food. He grabs some large bags of crunchy chips. The car is fully loaded with their groceries. He quickly prepares the grill for a feast. He lights the charcoal with a blazing torch. He rubs a rich crust on the steak. He carefully wraps the thick steak in bacon. He sautés fresh mushrooms in a buttery pan. The bacon-wrapped meat hits the blazing hot grill. The flames quickly sear the dark, thick crust. He turns the sizzling meat over the fire. They sit down for a truly glorious meal. He takes the first incredible, mind-blowing bite. He reflects on the sheer abundance of food. He appreciates the simple, everyday comforts of home. He thanks his brave partner for the adventure. They successfully completed the grueling wilderness living challenge. Enjoys the final, delicious bits of his meal. It is finally time for the final weigh-in. They reveal the true physical toll of survival. He checks the final numbers on his phone. They prepare to step onto the digital scale. They set up the camera for the results. The long-awaited moment of truth has finally arrived. The scale shows a very significant weight drop. He confirms the total pounds his body lost. He explains the harsh caloric deficit he endured. His resilient body adapted to the extreme conditions. They discuss the profound physical changes they experienced. The brutal challenge was a true endurance test. They proved their elite wilderness skills to the world. They survived without relying on any modern conveniences. They successfully lived off the harsh, wild land. It is the other tough survivor's turn now. He is completely ready to see his results. They joke about the impending weight loss numbers. He steps onto the cold digital scale carefully. The scale reads his much lower, depleted weight. He also lost a very noticeable amount of weight. They compare their different physical survival reactions. They maintained impressively high activity levels throughout. They didn't just barely survive, they actively thrived. They lived much like the tough ancient ancestors. They cleverly utilized every resource they could find. They truly conquered the wild, unforgiving nature challenge. They wrap up the discussion about their epic journey. He emphasizes the importance of utilizing all wild seasons. Takes a bite of a fresh, sweet banana. They proudly sign off after a successful